Okay, so my father became a life member in 1975. So when at that time I was 7. So as I grew up, I started reading Bhakti-Vedanta magazines. So I had knowledge about Krishna. And in time, devotees visited me door to door, and they introduced me to chanting Hare Krishna. And I was going to school also, so I finished my school studies, and I was materially fatigued. I couldn't fit into the material world. Some devotee, he asked a question to Prabhupada that what does it mean to surrender to Krishna? And Prabhupada said, in order to surrender to Krishna, you have to be materially fatigued, so you cannot fully surrender to Krishna. So I was materially fatigued, my health was gone, I couldn't get into higher education, I did minimum studies. So I thought, let me give Krishna consciousness a try. And I was following Bhagavad-Gītā very strictly, to the point. And I was under guidance of the temple devotees. I was reading and chanting Hare Krishna, reading Prabhupada's books, and trying to live a monastic life. And even though I had health problems, and initially I wasn't very responsible for my health, I had epilepsy, so I was missing the medicines, but still, because I was following properly, Krishna looked after me. And in time I tried to following the medicines, everything, and health is much better now. And the one thing that really helped me was following the line of spiritual masters, the devotees, and the scriptures. And because I followed this process, then I'm still here now. So Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gītā, Tesam sasadam yuktanam bhajatam piti porokam tadami buddhi yoganam yenam upayanti te. Those who are surrendered to me, I give them intelligence how to come to me. So I was following the Bhagavad-Gītā to the point, whatever was mentioned in Bhagavad-Gītā, what Srila Prabhupada has given, I was following that. And because I was following that, then the guidance I needed was sent to me through spiritual masters. And I can give a reference to that by a quote from Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. He gives a very deep quote on this point. So someone asked him a question, what is the function of the Chaitya Guru, Super Soul, and other forms of Guru? So he gave a very interesting answer here. He said, the Supreme Lord regulates the living entities' good and bad propensities by residing in their hearts as Super Soul. The Super Soul or internal spiritual master directs all living entities. The Super Soul also guides us to spiritual master. Aside from this, the spiritual master's servants act as instructing spiritual masters. Persons who glorify the Shastras, who explain Shastras to others, and who act according to Shastric injunctions, regulate the restless anarthas-filled minds of ignorant people. Such instructing spiritual masters help people before they receive initiation from a spiritual master. Without the mercy of the internal spiritual master, the Chaitya Guru, no one can become qualified to serve the lotus feet of the initiating and instructing spiritual masters. Yeah. Such instructing. Okay. Until we accumulate piety in the form of mercy, or in the form of Krishna's mercy, we cannot achieve the true mercy of the Chaitya Guru. As long as our hearts are filled with the desire for religiosity, economic development, sense gratification and liberation, we cannot aspire for devotional service. If due to good fortune we desire to take shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, then an eternal spiritual master will mercifully guide us to instructing gurus. The devotee spiritual master is attained by the Chaitya Guru's mercy. The Chaitya Guru bestows mercy in two ways. And it is because of these two forms of mercy that some people become materialists and others become devotees. Materialists are people who have accepted sense gratification as the ultimate goal. Instead of searching for devotional service, which is the ultimate goal of life, such people seek temporary happiness. This is Chaitya Guru's tricky mercy. Only a cheetah is fit to receive such tricky mercy. Pious, sincere devotees, however, become glorious by receiving the Chaitya Guru's true mercy. If someone who, despite becoming a Supreme Lord's servant, wants something other than his Lord's service, what can he be but a cheetah? An instructing spiritual master teaches a surrendered disciple to accept an initiating spiritual master. Therefore, even though there may be many instructing spiritual masters, there is no difference in opinion between such gurus and an initiating spiritual master who awards a disciple transcendental knowledge. Rather, an instructing spiritual master is a real friend of the initiating spiritual master. A living entity's awareness of his constitutional position is revived when he receives transcendental knowledge. At that time, those who give instructions regarding the process of Hari's devotional service are called instructing spiritual masters. The initiating spiritual master is situated between the commander-in-chief and the ordinary soldiers who are in the form of instructing spiritual masters. Only a person who is favored by the Lord in the form of the Chaitya Guru receives good fortune to understand the devotee of the Lord as his bona fide spiritual master. Only by the Lord's mercy can a living entity see the beauty of the bona fide spiritual master's toenails and thus make his life successful. So this confirms what Bhagavad-Gītā is saying. Same point. How Krishna is saying that as you surrender, then, and Prabhupada comments in the purport to the verse in 10:10, chapter 10, text 10, that even if one is not very qualified and is not very intelligent, if he is very sincere, then Krishna himself will guide that person back home, back to Godhead. So we see how Krishna is personally involved in a devotee's life. And an example can be given in this connection. Just like everyone's heard of Sony, right? Sony company. Now the person who owns the Sony company, he has his headquarters in Hong Kong. Say for example, someone joins the Sony company. But joining the Sony company, it's not like we see the person who owns the company. But by pleasing the person who's the manager of the company, the report goes to the owner. Maybe one day the owner himself will manifest himself and he'll give his mercy to you. In the same way, if you follow Krishna consciousness, then Krishna himself will manifest to you at some point in time. So this is a mystery of the disciplic succession, that we follow the line of disciplic succession. And this is why Prabhupada, he instigated in the ISKCON movement, the Krishna conscious movement. Prabhupada said, your love will be shown how you cooperate, never leave ISKCON, and always accept GBC body as the ultimate authority. So if you follow these three things, then the mercy is guaranteed for us. And myself, I had connection with my spiritual master. I took initiation in 1991, and 5 years I developed a relationship. And when the temple authority said I should take initiation, then I took initiation. So in this way I follow the line of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. And my spiritual master is Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and but the Krishna consciousness is so deep that example is given like Sanjaya speaking on the battle of Kurukshetra. He was speaking to Dhritarashtra in his room, but by Vyasadeva's mercy, he could see the battle of Kurukshetra happening at the same time. So Prabhupada comments, this is a mystery of disciplic succession, that by the mercy of the spiritual master, your connection to Krishna becomes direct. And someone asked a question to Prabhupada one time, that Prabhupada asked them a question, why did you all come to ISKCON? So one devotee said, well, in Bhagavad-Gītā, Krishna says, Sadhara Dhamram Parikyaja Mamekam Sambraja Aham Tam Savipavya Moksha Masacha. Give up all religion and surrender to me. Krishna is saying, I'll protect you. Prabhupada didn't accept the answer. Another devotee said, because you said Prabhupada, we should come. Prabhupada didn't accept the answer. And the third devotee, he said, because we're feeling Krishna's reciprocation, that's why we are staying here. So Prabhupada said, this is the answer. So over the years, my services have been book distribution. I did that for 6 years. I joined in 1986, so 6 years in book distribution, 6 to 8 years. And then I did, my spiritual master told me to look after my health. So then I did temple room cleaning for 10 years. In between I was preaching to guests. I did kitchen services, helping cut vegetables. So at some point I was cooking for deities, helping back up. I was in the pujari room, cleaning the pots, and going on harinams, preaching to devotees. In between I did extra chanting, 20 rounds minimum, then extra if more time was there. In between I was also looking after my health. So within all these times, because there is 3 things which are important. There is the mood and mission, there is the bhajan and personal well-being. So if one is just doing mood and mission, but he's not looking after his bhajan, he'll get burnt out. So everything has to be balanced. So at this time I'm doing services, serving prasadam to the brahmacharis, cleaning up afterwards, going through Prabhupada's books more, preaching to guests, doing extra chanting. So this is all part of my service. But when I joined I was 18, now I'm 46, so now I have to be a little more careful in my approach in services because I don't have that kind of energy when I was young. But I'm still pushing on. And I would say out of all the services, the chanting is the main, hearing and chanting. That's like the foundation of all the other services. So, they say chanting is like putting petrol in the car. If you put petrol in the car, you can reach your destination. So, by chanting 16 rounds, then you can achieve the higher goal of going back to Godhead. And extra chanting is always a plus. So that's my kind of approach nowadays. And there's a saying, everything's got regulation. Eating has got regulation, sleeping has got regulation, working has got regulation. But chanting Hare Krishna and reading Srimad Bhagavatam has no regulation, no limits. So this is the one thing we have to strive for. then everything else will balance out. And there was an example of Mahavishnu Goswami. I was serving him in the hospital. This is when he had a stroke. And he was chanting 64 rounds, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. He got cured from the stroke. All the doctors and nurses came to his place where he was sleeping and asked him, "What is the secret, Maharaj?" And Maharaj said, "Reading Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna is the cure for everything." A devotee means someone who's joyful all the time. And Prabhupada said, unless someone is joyful, he cannot be a devotee. A devotee is not someone, by rubber stamping, you make them a devotee. A devotee is someone who's joyful all the time. So that comes by following the process. Going for Mangalarti, chanting your rounds in the morning. Prabhupada said, if you chant your 16 rounds before 10 in the morning, 6 days I will not disturb you. So that's what I try and do. I keep to that standard, Prabhupada's instructions, and have a good relationship with devotees, get their mercy. It's like even in the material world, to survive, you cannot do with your own strength. You have to have help from people around you. So same thing in spiritual life. Spiritual life is more subtle. So you need the blessings of those who are also practicing. With their blessings you can also advance. That's my hope. That's my only way how I survive to be a devotee. And there was one example in this connection. In the early years of ISKCON, it happened that the Gurukulis, they went through a bad period. And many of the Gurukulis were not very nicely treated. Many were hurt badly. Different things happened. And he got a bad name. But there was one devotee in the Gurukuli. And his devotee, even though he went through a bad period, he was tortured and not very well looked after and everything, he carried on chanting 16 rounds. The CP or Child Protection Team, one of the devotees in that team was a Prabhupada disciple. He asked him the question, how is it that you went through so much problems and you're still chanting 16 rounds? So this devotee answered that the reason why I'm chanting 16 rounds is because the GBC devotees and the senior devotees in ISKCON, the sannyasis and the Prabhupada disciples, they always kept in touch with me. And although I was indifferent to them, they, in time, because of their association, had a realization that whatever I went through in my Krishna conscious upbringing was all part of Krishna's mercy. And whatever I went through was just a token reaction, which I would have got a bigger reaction otherwise. So this is where we have to see things in the line of Krishna's mercy. And if we see like that, then whatever difficulty we are going through, it will be minimized to a large extent. So that's why I'm still a devotee, because I can say when I joined ISKCON, my hand was paralyzed, I had epilepsy. But after becoming a devotee and practicing, my health is improved, my hands I can use more. Epilepsy is gone now, practically gone. And my relationship with devotees are increasing more and more. I'm getting more and more new devotees coming in. They're giving me care and attention. And I feel looked after. And I feel Krishna's protection because I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I'm trying to avoid the 10 offenses against the holy name. Reading Prabhupada's books. And keeping in touch with the spiritual masters. In this way, as I'm getting older, I'm getting the realization I'm not the body anymore. And I'm getting realization how many devotees leave their bodies in ISKCON, but they're very happy to leave their bodies. Generally when someone dies in the material world, they're very distressed and sad and they're very remorse. they're full of stress and anxiety. But one devotee, many devotees left their bodies and they're very blissful. And in the outside, when people leave their bodies become rigor mortis. But devotees have bodies like toys when they leave their bodies. So that means they were very blissful when they left their bodies. And their future gets revealed also, how they're going back to Godhead, not coming back here. So in this way, that's what keeps me in Krishna consciousness. Okay, as far as my realizations go, one thing I realize that I'm not the body. I'm happy to realize I'm not the body. Because this body is full of misery, is temporary, and is full of ignorance. So to have that realization, I'm spirit soul, is a big realization, and it's happy to hear that. It's happy to know I'm different from the body. And Prabhupada explained in one of his lectures how just like a king is sitting on the throne and the bug is sitting on the king's lap. So the bug's job is to bite the king. But the king is there to rule the world. Matter of consciousness. So if we are there to serve Krishna and the spiritual master, then we are kings. But if we are there to disturb the spiritual master and Krishna, we are like bugs. So one of my realizations is that that's what's kept me in Krishna consciousness. Just hearing Prabhupada lectures and understanding that material world is temporary place. It's not a permanent place. It's a place of misery. And people are frustrated. There's no happiness. But in Krishna consciousness, we see people are very happy all the time. The difficult times may be there, but what is it? These difficulties are nothing. Because the devotees' association is there, then everything becomes very blissful, and everything becomes full of joy. One devotee was saying in his class this morning, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu was saying in his class this morning how the statistics out in the material world are not very good. 83% are into gambling, big amount are doing abortions, and people are very frustrated and frightened. They have nothing to go for in life. But Krishna consciousness is all joyful, and it's full of bliss, it's full of pleasure, and they're there to put you on a very high platform, spiritual platform. So, and another thing about Krishna consciousness is that everything is provided for you. You don't have to over-endeavor for anything. Whatever you need, Krishna provides. So that's what keeps us going in Krishna consciousness, is that devotee association and seeing through the eye of scriptures, and discussion with devotees about what the scriptures say. So this deepens our Krishna consciousness more, and in this way we become more internal. So Krishna consciousness is more based on internal than external. And we can see how Prabhupada balanced everything within the Hare Krishna movement, how he did things in such a way that people, the devotees practicing, can have a balanced life, both spiritual and material. Because spiritual well-being is there, then material well-being will automatically follow. And I met many devotees on different levels. I met certain devotees chanting 40 rounds, 30 32 rounds. And just being around devotees like that, I feel very inspired to carry on in my Krishna consciousness. And just being around that kind of devotees, I feel that there is nothing higher than this. And discussing scriptures. So I always find Krishna makes arrangement for showing that he's always there to help the devotees. So there's a quote by Bhaktivedanta Manor. He says a very interesting quote. He says, anything can happen. Krishna's in charge. Always take shelter of a pure devotee and always remain meek and humble. So, if I could go back in time, I would follow the same process what I did now. There wouldn't be any change. Change wouldn't be there for me. Because the process is given by Krishna. And Krishna is directing everything in the heart. And by that direction of Krishna, then by that guidance you feel how you're getting protected. Because ultimately everyone is looking for love and care. And if Krishna is giving that, what more do we want? He's giving it to us. And there are examples of that, like there were many devotees in ISKCON in the early years. They were eating a lot of prasadam, and Prabhupada was giving it to them. And Prabhupada gave the ISKCON bullets, the gulab jamuns, because devotees like them, just to keep them in ISKCON. So this is the thing, we have to do what's necessary to stay in ISKCON. So I follow the process, chanting, dancing and feasting. Prabhupada says it's so simple. Prabhupada also said, Krishna consciousness is so simple you'll miss it. So in order to stay in Krishna consciousness, you have to be serious. This is the key line. If one is not serious, one cannot practice Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is like a law degree. Just like no one can go into the law college or the court of the law, right? Unless he has a law degree. One cannot go into law college and has a law degree. So Krishna consciousness is like law degree qualification. Politicians will ask Bhaktivedanta Thakur that how many people are coming to Krishna consciousness? How many people are you making into devotees? So he would answer like this. He would say, how many people have law degrees? So Krishna consciousness is only for those who are very serious. Although it's open for everyone, but many may not take to it. Because it requires serious commitment. It's like Krishna consciousness is like becoming a doctor. Just like by buying a book from the shop and reading it, you cannot just become a doctor. You have to go to the doctor's place where they train you to be a doctor. Then you have to have 3 doctors to see how you're practicing to be a doctor. And then when they see that you're ready and you're qualified, then they'll give you the certificate. So Krishna consciousness is also something like that. It's like becoming a doctor of the soul. So, but the only difference in Krishna consciousness is the blissful process. And Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is for everyone, even someone who's illiterate, someone who's not very strong, someone who's disabled, someone who's strong. It's for everyone. But those who are duplicious, they cannot chant the holy name. But otherwise it's for everyone. It's open to everyone. So my realization going back is because I stuck to the chanting of Hare Krishna very seriously and I avoided the 10 offenses against the chanting, this is why I'm still in Krishna consciousness. And the other thing is, we have to use everything in Krishna's service. So, there's a quote by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He says, if one can avoid women, wealth and fame, he can conquer the world. So for us as devotees, we have to use these things in Krishna's service. So all women we should see for Krishna's pleasure, all wealth for Krishna's pleasure, and all children as Krishna's friends. So if we learn to see like this, then we are living in Goloka Vrindavan. But this is the secret. We have to change our vision. So that comes by reading scriptures, association with advanced devotees, and by discussing with devotees, Krishna consciousnesses, then we become more deep. And we follow what devotees tell us. We reveal our mind to the devotees who are practicing. And then they can help us. Just like when you go to a doctor, you reveal your mind. I'm having this problem, I'm having this. Doctor can help you. You do this, this and this. The same thing with devotees. You reveal your mind, and then they can help you what things you should overcome. And in this way you become strong. Okay. So in the beginning my parents, they wanted me to get married, but I decided to take a renounced life. So when I joined a temple, they were against me because they didn't know much about what Hare Krishna movement was about. But as I continued practicing, they became more favorable. And they were supporting me actually. Many times they bought tickets for me to go to India, Mayapur, Vrindavan. Last 4 times, recently I went to Ujjain. We have a big temple there now. Gurukul being built. We have a Goshala. Between 25,000 children, prasad every day in schools. So they supported me going to India. And they're very favorable towards Krishna consciousness. They're very open, they're very supportive. It's very rare to find those who can fully surrender, like getting up 4 o'clock in the morning and chanting 16 rounds, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam class, which they are not doing because my brother is married, he's got 3 daughters, wife, mother, like that. But they're very favorable. And my relations come to the temple. They come and take prasad. They support the temple in different ways. In time they'll become devotees. So this is, yeah. Okay, my favorite form of Lord Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot, because Krishna is so indebted to his devotee that he's driving Arjuna's chariot, and charioteer who drives a chariot, he gets kicked by the chariot driver. Krishna is so humble that he's taking that position. So that's one of my favorite forms. And also this form signifies how if he surrenders to Krishna fully, then he will protect us like Arjuna, he's protecting Arjuna. So Prabhupada also himself says, I want to fight like Arjuna. I don't know. So that's one of my favorite forms. And that keeps me going in Krishna consciousness. And that's in line with the story of the Brahmana in South India, where he was reading Bhagavad-Gītā upside down and he was illiterate. And everyone was making fun of him, saying that, what do you know about Bhagavad-Gītā? And then one time Lord Chaitanya came there and he asked his Brahmana, so what are you doing? The Brahmana said that my spiritual master told me to read the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-Gītā, and I'm illiterate, I cannot read, but I'm looking at this picture of Krishna driving a chariot of Arjuna. When I see that picture, I'm crying. So then Lord Chaitanya said, you're the real student of Bhagavad-Gītā, you're the real person who understands Bhagavad-Gītā. So that's my That's my answer to this question.